All right. Welcome back to the podcast, y'all. I was going to get new intro music. I actually did get some, but my dog ate it. And so hopefully next week we'll have legit intro music. But first, before we got into this podcast, I do want to say a huge thank you to everyone that listened or watched wherever you did that on Spotify or on YouTube. I'm trying to get it on Apple Podcasts and all the other podcast platforms, but it's kind of a pain in the butt. So that's been kind of not put on hold, but it's just going to take a little bit of time. So once it's on there, you guys will know. And I will update everybody. But today I was thinking about like what I kind of wanted to talk about. And this kind of came to mind. So the last time we talked about like basically like my life story up until I started losing weight. So I figured this would be a good time to kind of start talking about how I became ObeseToBeast, share the story of basically how I lost weight and how I've gotten to be this person that has been making YouTube videos for 10 years basically at this point, and how that happened. So when I was, and also I'm sorry if I look a little tired or I sound a little tired. Last night, not last night, the night before last, I was actually at a show with the bands The Almost. I'm actually wearing a shirt from the show that I got. If you're watching, if you're not watching, I'm sorry. But it was The Almost, Emery, and then Haste the Day, which are all bands from when I was in high school that were pretty popular, post-hardcore bands. And it was a lot of fun. I was there with one of my friends, and he's friends with someone in Haste the Day. And so we actually had like backstage passes, and I was able to stand like side stage and watch. It was very, very cool, but we were up pretty late. I didn't get to sleep until like 1, and then I had to be up really early because I was actually playing drums at church. I've been doing that relatively frequently. And so I had to be up pretty early, which I don't know. I'm still conflicted about the whole thing because maybe I shouldn't even be sharing this in this podcast, but whatever. I'm not trying to upset anybody. I'm just sharing my kind of story, but, I don't think I would consider myself a Christian. But I'm helping someone out that, really needs a drummer. And so I've been doing that, and it's kind of a weird situation because obviously I like drumming. I don't know. But so I had to be up really early. And so this morning I'm very tired. And so I have a coffee with me. That's why I might look a little strange, look a little tired, sound a little tired, but that's neither here nor there. That's besides the point. So let's kind of talk about how I became ObeseToBeast. It's a funny name, honestly, at this point, because when I first came up with the name ObeseToBeast, it wasn't me trying to say that I was a beast. It was more aspirational than anything. It was like I wanted to be a beast. And again, I made it when I was like freaking 20 years old, 21 years old. Okay, so give me a break, okay? But it wasn't like me trying to say I am a beast. Because like people will comment, you're not even a beast, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, I know, okay? I really don't think that I am, okay? But let's kind of get into how I started losing weight. So when I first started losing weight, I did what I call the common sense diet. And so I used to eat a lot of junk food, fast food. Most of my diet was just really terrible food that regardless of how much you know about nutrition, like that you probably shouldn't be eating it. And so I decided that I was like, okay, I'm going to do what I call the common sense diet. And I've had a lot of people message me about this and say like it really helped them a lot, which it means a lot, but it's just like, this is coming from a 20-year-old kid that had no idea what he was doing, just kind of being like, what's unhealthy, right? And so for me, it was like, okay, I need to cut out junk food because I used to go to 7-Eleven. There was a 7-Eleven really close to my house. And so I used to walk there all the time and buy junk food, right? So I'd buy chips and candies and big things of soda or like Arizona iced tea or whatever, right? And so I was like, I need to cut that out. Fast food was another one. I used to get fast food all the time, McDonald's, Jack in the Box, stuff like that. And then also, Mexican food here in San Diego is really popular, and I used to eat that a lot. It's so good, man. It is so good. I had some recently, and I had, with my girlfriend, I was like, you have to try carne asada fries and a California burrito. Man, they're so good. But I used to have those like all the time, multiple times a week, right? And then the other one was soda because I used to drink like a 2-liter soda. So it was like, okay, I need to cut out this stuff that is so obviously like not helping me, right? And that's how I started. I started the common sense diet. I would eat I talked about this last time, but I would eat a lot of sandwiches, and, you know, people say bread's bad for you, but the way I saw it was like, this is much better than what I was eating before. And yeah, that's kind of how I started. Now, where things got a little sticky and unhealthy was that for so long, I didn't believe that I could lose weight. And I wanted to lose weight so badly. And so I was at this point basically willing to almost do anything. And for me, that meant under eating. So at first I saw results and I was very happy with myself and very proud of myself, because I wasn't the person that would lose weight and then gain it all back. Like, I wasn't someone that would lose 30, 40, 50 pounds and then gain it back. I would lose maybe 10, but usually not even that. And then I would give up. Like, I felt like I was literally incapable of losing weight. And so when I actually started losing weight, I felt so proud of myself and so good. And like, I finally realized, oh, I'm not broken, right? Because for so long, I thought there was something wrong with me. I was broken. It was impossible for me to lose weight. And that sent me down, I don't want to say a spiral, but it latched on. It was like this part of me that latched on to that feeling of, I can do this. And it became like my whole identity. And so I started losing weight. And then this was like, I wasn't even going to the gym yet because I couldn't afford a gym membership. Like, at the time I did not have any money. I was very, very broke. And so I couldn't even afford a gym membership. So it was just all through diet. And so I started losing weight, and I wasn't even counting calories at this point. Like, I was just doing what I call the common sense diet. And I would say that was a relatively healthy thing, actually, because I wasn't under eating severely. Not that I remember, to be honest. I mean, it's been a long time now, but I wasn't severely under eating or anything like that. But then I wanted to up the ante because I started seeing results, and I wanted to see more, and I wanted to see more, and I wanted to see more. So that's when I started to do a little bit more research on stuff, and I started learning about calories, macros, stuff like that. I used to watch a lot of, this is like way back in the day, was like the Hodge twins on YouTube. They were quite a big like influence on me. They kind of helped me learn about what is like macronutrients just in general. Their videos are much different now. Wow. But, you know, at the time they were one of the only people that were like talking about fitness, and they were also very funny. And I thought they were very funny. And so that was really helpful. And I started learning about this stuff, right? So that's when I started actually gaining knowledge, learning about nutrition and stuff like that. And that's when I started learning about macros, learning about calories just in general. And that's when I started to, I would say, loosely track. Mainly I was tracking calories. And this is when I would say it probably stepped from a relatively healthy thing that I was doing to obsession, maybe not yet super unhealthy, because then I started, and I want to make it clear, I'm not at all against tracking, in general. I'm not saying like if you track, that's unhealthy. Not at all. I think that there's a time and a place for tracking. I have nothing against it, okay? I just want to make that very clear. But for me, it became unhealthy. And so at the start, it became unhealthy. And so I started tracking calories, and the way that it became unhealthy for me was because I think personally, because I have ADD, not to blame it all on that, but I became hyperfixated. And so I was hyperfixated on weight loss. You know, I wasn't hyperfixated really on health at this point or even fitness. It was hyperfixated on weight loss. That's what I cared about, right? And so anything I could do to make that weight loss happen faster is what I wanted to do. And so that turned into calories becoming the enemy, basically, is the best way that I can put it. And so, you know, I basically, it's hard to remember exactly what would happen, but what overall pretty much happened was I went from, you know, maybe eating 2,500 calories. I don't know if this is the exact number, but say I was eating 2,500 calories, and then I realized, okay, if I eat less calories, I will lose more weight. So then it just became a game of how little can I eat, right? And so then I just started really, really severely cutting my calories over time. Now, this was over a long period of time, probably over a year. This is when I was losing the bulk of my weight. The bulk of my weight I lost through mainly diet. Wasn't really exercising. I don't recommend this. That's why the information that I share is really a lot different than what I actually did. Some people might say, like, you know, maybe I'm a little bit of a hypocrite, but I just don't want people to struggle with what I struggled with, because I genuinely do think that the the fact that I was able to get out of the binge eating and the severely under eating is, I don't want to say it's not a miracle, but most people struggle with, like, if they go down that path, they don't come out of it, right? So they just end up maybe gaining the weight back because they binge eat, and then that's that. And so we've all heard the term 90% of diets fail. I don't know how true that statement is, but it's like a lot of people really struggle with it. So that's why I don't really condone what I did. I just want to make that very clear. And so I started severely under eating, and it all came to a head. I didn't have like a moment where it was like, oh my God, I fainted or anything like that. But it started becoming obvious to me that this isn't very good. And I would even joke with friends. Me and my best friend Nolan, who I mentioned in the last video, in the last podcast, he asked me, he was like, dude, do you like think that you're eating enough? Like, this doesn't really seem healthy. And I joked around and I said, once I lose the weight, I'll get healthy, but I just need to lose the weight first. Now, if I heard someone say that to me, I would say, hey, that's probably a sign that what you're doing is not the best thing to be doing, and I would reevaluate what you're doing. But that's what I did. Like, that's just the honest truth, is that's what I did. And so I was severely under eating, like a very normal day for me at this time. At this time, I had two jobs. I was working at Vans, my first job, and then I also worked at Vons, which is a grocery store here in San Diego and just other places as well. And I started as a courtesy clerk, which basically is you're a bagger, and then you get the carts. That's what my job was at the start. And then I got moved to the meat department, and that's what I was doing at the time. I got a lot more hours when I worked in the meat department. That's kind of how it worked. Like, if you got moved from courtesy clerk to one of like the auxiliary, like meat department or deli or whatever, bakery, you got more hours because there were just more hours there. And so I was working in the meat department. There's a reason I'm telling you that part. So at this time, I was working those two jobs, and I was severely under eating. So like a normal breakfast for me would be a packet of plain oatmeal with water. That's it. Okay. Like I would heat it in the microwave and eat it plain with nothing else in it. Grim. It's truly, I don't know how I did that. That was breakfast. And then lunch a lot of times would be a little like salad thing they sold at Vons. It's like this little clear bowl that has like a little salad in it. And they're usually, I think, like 350 to 400 calories, if I remember correctly, maybe even a little bit less. Maybe they're usually like 250 to 300 calories, something like that. Low calories. And I would have maybe an apple as well. So that would be lunch. And then maybe I would have a piece of fruit like on one of my breaks at work at Vons. And then dinner would be, I would either make like a chicken salad, or I was still living with my mom at the time. So if she made dinner, I would just have like a small portion of that. So, spaghetti or something like that. And so that was way too little calories. It was not enough. And I remember at this time, basically every time I would stand up from sitting, I would get very lightheaded. And, that's not a good sign. And I was working at the meat department, and a lot of what we had to do was we would work in the freezers and in the fridges, and you'd have to pick up these big boxes of just frozen meat that would start at 50 pounds and then go up. Like every box was at least 50 pounds, and then sometimes they'd be up to, close to 100 pounds. And so that was very difficult for me to do. And basically, it meant that I was just really not a great employee at this time. I really wasn't. I was so tired all the time. But it was this weird juxtaposition of I was so tired all the time, and I didn't feel great. But I also would have a lot of people congratulating me on the weight loss, which obviously felt good because that's what the goal was. And I think that that story, right, is why I am sympathetic to a lot of like the health at every size or fat acceptance kind of, I guess you could say, movement, because I myself was the person that dealt with like getting compliments when I really was doing something that really was not the healthiest, and didn't feel great, right? And so I can understand how it's kind of a pain point for other people. So at that time, I was probably eating, anywhere from like 750 to 1,000 calories a day. Like that was a pretty standard thing. And I used to have this mantra that I would kind of say to myself to make it through, was like, if you can do it for one day, you can do it basically indefinitely, which now I would say is BS. And I would, it's definitely not true. Just because you can do something for one day does not mean you can do it indefinitely, or you can do it for extended periods of time. The reason I say that is because this is when I was struggling with binge eating as well. And so I would do that. I would go 3 or 4 days eating the food that I just mentioned, but then eventually I would basically break, is what I call it, and I would binge. And so the best way for me to explain it, I've mentioned this in a lot of videos, but the best way that I can explain it is that I always felt like there was this like skeleton, or like this like sort of like hooded figure that was like behind me, right? I always knew they were there. So whenever I would be eating these really low calorie meals and going through these days, I could feel that presence there, right? That want to eat more, but I could usually keep it at bay, right? But eventually there'd be a day where that figure would grab onto my shoulder, right? And like once the figure touched me, I had no power. Like it would like possess me basically, right? And so the days that I would binge, I usually would know what was going to happen during the day. So like say it's a Thursday and I decide that I'm going to binge, basically decide that I'm going to binge. I knew earlier in the day that it was going to happen. And a lot of times I would almost like prepare for it. And so it always happened at night for me. I would wait because there was a lot of shame involved with it for me. And so I would wait until everyone was asleep. Again, I was still living with my mom, and we had a lot of people that lived at the house at the time. I would wait for everyone to be asleep, and then I would go into the kitchen, grab a lot of food, go into my room, eat it, go back into the kitchen, grab more food, come back in my room, eat it, and then repeat. And basically every time I would try and argue with myself or like make deals like, this is the last time you're going in. Once you finish this, you can't go back out. But then it would happen again, you know? And it would be so frustrating, but like, it was like, I felt like I had a little bit of control, but I also felt like I didn't have any control. That's the best way for me to explain it. I really don't, I wish I could explain it better, but I don't know. That's just how it felt for me. And this time was when I really felt like, okay, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to keep this weight off, because I felt so out of control. Like I just felt so out of control with my diet and the way that I was eating. And I felt like I just don't know if I'm going to be able to keep this weight off, because clearly this is what's going on. So around this time as well was when I started actually going to the gym. And I actually started working out because I was considering joining the Air Force, because my sister was in the hospital to give birth to my niece Faith. And I remember there's this memory that I have of sitting in the hospital room and like doing research about the Air Force, because at this time, like I hadn't really started ObeseToBeast yet. I'm not sure if I don't know if I had started it at all, or maybe it was just on Instagram. Like I hadn't started it. And so I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. Like I said, I graduated high school. I went to college for 1 year, and that was it. So I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And so it seemed like a good idea. Join the armed forces, get training, make more money, see the world, all that stuff, right? This stuff you always hear. And so I was like genuinely considering it. And somehow I got on like the, looking at like the physical requirements and stuff. And I don't know if like, I honestly don't even know if these are actual physical requirements, or I just kind of decided in my head someone that's in the armed forces should be able to do these things, right? And so it was like push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, I think. And at the time, I could not do a single pull-up. I'm not sure how many sit-ups I could do, probably not very many, and same thing with push-ups. Like I was, for all intents and purposes, skinny fat, right? So I had lost a lot of weight. I did not have a lot of muscle. I will say that genetically, I feel like I am kind of predisposed to putting on muscle. And that's not like to toot my own horn or anything, but I just think that I put it on relatively easily. So I never got to be like, so I've seen some people that lose a lot of weight and they become like rail thin, like very like gaunt. I never got to that point until I decided to do it, right? When I competed for a physique show, I like tried to get as thin as possible. My face looked Skeletor, right? But this was before all that. And so I never got to be like tiny, insanely skinny, but at that time I was definitely what I would consider skinny fat, right? So that's when I decided to start like trying to actually like work out. And that's when I really started to dive in more on YouTube and watch a lot of like the old OG YouTubers that did like bodybuilding stuff. I remember Physiques of Greatness, Chris Jones. I used to watch a lot of his videos. I watched a lot of Matt Ogus videos. I watched a lot of Christian Guzman actually videos, and just kind of learned about macros. And that's when I started like learning about macros and carbs, fats, proteins, learning how to track it, like actually track it, not just do like the calories. And I learned a lot in this time. Like I am very thankful because, again, my hyperfixation from an ADD switched from weight loss to fitness now, which I am happy with because it helped me get out of that mode of binge eating. And around this time was, the timeline is probably all a little messed up. It's hard to remember everything off the top of your head, but this is when I had decided to start ObeseToBeast, the Instagram, right? So that was the first thing that I started as ObeseToBeast. The name just sounded cool. I think I looked up ObeseToBeast and it was already taken. So I was like, okay, ObeseToBeast, I guess. Again, it's not like I was like trying to take someone's name. I didn't think this was going to take off. The reason I started ObeseToBeast was because I felt bad that I was posting so much fitness content on my regular Instagram. That's pretty much it, right? And so I was like, you know what? I'll start an Instagram that's only focused on fitness. And so that's what I did. I started it as ObeseToBeast, and I started just posting before and after photos and, you know, trying to help people. It's funny to think back because I really did not know much about what I was doing, but I wanted to help people from a genuine, like, I know what it's like to feel like you can't do it. And I just felt like, well, if I was able to do it, anybody can, right? That's really how I felt. And to an extent, I still feel that way. But I do realize that there is a lot of other factors that go into losing weight than just your willpower. And so, you know, my views on that have changed a little bit, but which, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'll get into it on another podcast, but that's why I started it. Literally, like I had no intention of turning it into, this is what I do for a living. That didn't exist then. Like YouTube was around, but like the thought of me becoming a YouTuber I just didn't even fathom it, right? It just didn't, I had never even considered it really. Same thing with like there was no one that was an Instagrammer at the time. It just didn't, it was an influencer, wasn't even a term in the lexicon yet, right? Like it just didn't exist. I just started it because I was like, hey, you know what? I feel bad that I'm posting so much stuff on here. So I'll make this one just about that. So I don't have like, I have no guilty conscience about posting as much fitness content as I want, or before and after content basically is what it was at the start, as I want. And I'll, you know, there you go. And so that's kind of how it started. And I started posting. And so this will be kind of the story of how I became like quote unquote ObeseToBeast. So at the time I was like looking through hashtags. I was just like really engulfed in the fitness space. And I found this guy that was posting fitness content on Instagram. And I looked at his profile and he was posting videos and pictures from a 24-hour fitness in Santee. And at the time, I had been working out and I actually got a job at a 24-hour fitness that was actually in El Cajon, which is another city that's right next to Santee, which is where I grew up. And I was like, wow, this guy's really close. Basically, I found out that this dude that, you know, he had a few thousand followers. It wasn't like he was huge, but he had a few thousand followers. He was posting fitness content. He clearly knew what he was doing at the gym. He knew how to lift. And I was like, that's cool. And I found out that he was working out very close to me. And so I don't know how the first correspondence happened, but for those of you that might have been around for a long time, you might already know who I'm talking about. It's my friend Brian Turner. At the time, he was really pushing Beyond the Week, which was a clothing company. Not just a clothing company. It was a lot of stuff. It was like basically his brand, but he was really pushing that. And somehow we got connected. I don't remember exactly if I messaged him first. I'm pretty sure I did, but I could be wrong on that, truly. And so I was just like, hey man, like, I don't know. I don't remember if I said anything, if he messaged me first, but we got connected and I was just very, you know, interested. And I thought it would be cool to do a workout together, I think. And so eventually we ended up doing a workout together. And, you know, Brian taught me a lot about working out and fitness and stuff. Like I would not be where I am today without Brian. That is without a doubt a fact. He helped me in a lot of ways. and not just like mentally, but like literally helped me with like filming things and helped me edit stuff, because at the time I didn't know what I was doing. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So we started corresponding. Then we started, like, I would say we became friends at this point. And he really was like, he was already making YouTube videos, and he said, you should do it too. And I was like, I don't know how. I don't have a camera. At the time, phones were not what they are now, because I tell most people, like, if you want to start, use your phone and just see if you even enjoy it, because your phone is good enough. It really is. At the time, I don't think my phone would have cut it. And so he was willing to help me. He was like, hey, you know what? I'll help you. I'll help you start. And so the first few videos I made on the ObeseToBeast channel was at Brian's house. It was with his equipment, and he edited them, like literally. He did everything. And so again, if it wasn't for him, it wouldn't have happened. And so I started making YouTube videos. And my goal was, I just wanted to, make like motivational videos, which were the first few were. But I also wanted to film like full day of eatings, because those are really big on YouTube. Show people what I was eating. I wanted to film, one video I wanted to film was a loose skin video. Now, I had already posted a few photos of my loose skin on my Instagram, because again, I would get so many questions about it after losing weight. People would have questions, and I would talk about my loose skin on there. But there wasn't any video option on Instagram at the time. It just didn't exist, right? And so I was like, I want to make a video about my loose skin to kind of share that and show what it looks like. So that was one of the other videos that I wanted to do. And so that's kind of what we ended up doing. I had my channel for a few months. I was, he helped me with the first few, but then I kind of started doing it myself. I was doing like the full day of eatings. I would film like motivational videos. Sometimes I would just literally be sitting outside of the gym in my car. I'd record it, and that would be the video that I uploaded. And that's kind of how it started. Again, I had no intention. Like, I didn't think, oh, I'm going to become a big YouTuber. I just wanted to share this, and the fact that I had a small community of people was very, very cool to me, right? It's kind of honestly how I feel about this podcast. Like, it's obviously not some huge podcast, but I've gotten so many really nice comments. It feels like that. And so that's kind of how it started. And then everything changed. We filmed that loose skin video, and I remember filming it. It was different. It was just different. Like, me and Brian, we worked out, and then we went back to his house, and we were like, okay, we're going to record this video. And so then we went and recorded it. And I remember during the video, Brian was recording it. He started like kind of tearing up and crying. And I was like, that was okay. Like, whatever. I wasn't expecting that at all. But then, we finished recording the video, and then Brian was like, okay, I'm just going to edit it right now. And then he edited it, and then he was like, do you think we should just post it? And so I think we literally like recorded, edited it, posted it all in the same like afternoon. Like, it did not take us very long, right? That video wasn't very long. And then we were like, wow, this is, we were like hoping, we're like, man, this is pretty crazy. Like, what if this went viral? Again, me not thinking, oh yeah, that definitely will. Like, just being like, what if, like, it's just what if it happens? And then I went home, I went to bed, and I woke up, and I think the video had thousands of views. And at the time, I think it had maybe 3,000 subscribers, and it already had way more views than subscribers that I had. So it was getting out of my sphere. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And then it just continued to grow. The first place that I posted, I believe, was, I think I posted it, or someone else might have. I don't remember exactly, but it was posted on Reddit, which I still use Reddit. I use the Lose It subreddit a lot. Again, a lot of great information there. But I think it got posted there, or maybe progress pics. I don't remember exactly, but it got posted there. And then from there is when it kind of started going viral. I remember it got like shared by, like, at the time, Ashton Kutcher. He had like this, I don't know, it was like this blog where he would like really like kind of reshare viral stuff. And honestly, it probably wasn't even actually him, right? But it seemed like it was Ashton Kutcher sharing it. And then it just started really blowing up, and like it just was getting hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views, and like right. And I remember I was at work. It was when I was working at 24, And I used to have all of my notifications on my phone. I used to just like, you know, if I ever got a comment or if someone subscribed, I would get a notification on my phone and I'd be like, oh, cool. This is when I had to turn that off because I was working and my phone was about to die because it was constantly just like ringing and like notification. Like my phone was hot. So I turned the notifications off. And I was just like, I remember at this time, man, I was reeling. Like, I was just like, how is this happening? This is crazy. It was insane, right? And then this whole time, you know, this was like over a few days, I'd been talking to Brian and his brother Eric, or LP. And we were like, oh, dude, what if you go on Ellen, dude? That'd be crazy. And we were just like, yeah, sure, you know. Not thinking that's actually going to happen. And then lo and behold, I get an email from the Ellen team and they want to talk and we have this conversation and we like their process. It was very long. Like I had meetings with producers like many times, probably like 3 or 4 before they decided that I was going to go on the show. And then they decided I was going to go on the show. And I remember I was with Brian at the gym and LP. And they said, okay, you can't tell anyone that you're going to go on the show. And I was like, all right, I won't tell anyone. And immediately I told Brian and LP. And then we started like cheering. We like went out into the, like, we were at the gym. We went out into the parking lot and like running around, jumping, like, oh my God. It was a big deal, right? And so I'm trying to shorten this as much as I can because I'm really not trying to make this episode too long. But then I ended up going on Ellen, you know? And that really kind of solidified everything. Then I got my car and all that stuff, and I've told the Ellen story a million times, so I don't really want to go super into detail on that, but it really did, like, it was a turning point in my life, right? Because up until that point, I was like, I don't know if this is going to be what I do. It's just a really cool thing that I'm doing as well as the work that I was doing. But eventually I was able to quit the jobs that I was working. So at this time I had gotten another job at Starbucks and then I was working at 24. So those were the 2 jobs that I had. I left Vaughn's and Vans and I had a couple other jobs in between that. But I was able to leave. I first left 24 because I really didn't like working there. And then I left Vans eventually. And then I became like a content creator full time. And I've been that ever since. And things have been, I don't know, so much has changed on YouTube since I started. Like when I started, my goal was to make content about myself and, you know, share my full day of eatings, share my, you know, just like motivation. But the thing is that I wish I could say that I could still do that, but at least for my channel, it just doesn't, like if I were to do a full day of eating, they just don't do that well. And so it's kind of, I don't know, like, obviously my channel has shifted a lot, you know, it's more commentary based. And I think part of it is just because like at this point, there's not much that I feel like that I can share that I haven't already shared, you know, like the full day of eatings. A lot of the stuff I eat is pretty much the same. So it's like, what's the point of that? The motivation or like the information of how to lose weight. I've shared that video so many times. Like how many more times can I say the same exact thing? So with the commentary, I do feel like it gives me an opportunity to talk about something new and it makes me think about stuff. And like over the years of doing commentary videos, my opinions have changed and it's been cool to see that. Like it's kind of crazy for me to watch a video from say 3 years ago versus now. Like my opinions have changed, how I even record the videos, how I am on the videos, like the way that I act, a lot of that has changed as well. But yeah, it's been really, really interesting. Like there's so much more to the story, but I don't want to like, I don't know. I just feel like some of the details are just kind of unnecessary, but you know, that's where I'm at now. And so kind of talking about that, this is where I really struggle with, I feel like I at some point am just a little too cynical, but I don't know. I think it's maybe because I've just been doing this for so long, but I really struggle with just the fitness industry as a whole and like finding my place in it. And so like, I don't know, this might be a little bit too deep, but whatever, it is what it is. That's why the podcast is here. I struggle with the fitness industry because it feels like to me, the fitness industry exists so people can make money. instead of existing to help people lose weight or get fit. And that is a bummer to me. I want to make it clear, I don't think there is anything wrong with making a living helping people get fit, lose weight, or anything like that. That's what I am trying to do. That's why I have the app. That's why I have the coaching soon, right? But the reason I have struggled so much with, the coaching hasn't even launched yet, because I struggle with, like, who am I? Who am I to say I am a coach, even though I am certified, right? But who am I to say I will help you, or I'll be the one that figures this out for you? Because there's so many other people doing the same exact thing. The same thing with my app, right? How many other places are there to find workouts? A lot. And so I've struggled so much. And again, I think it loops back to the imposter syndrome that I talked about in the first episode. Why would I feel like I am in any way in authority and that people should listen to what I have to say about this? And it blows my mind that more people don't feel this way, because some of the stuff that I see, the posts that I see, the information, or the, helping someone lose weight, is just so clearly bad information that I'm like, how does this person sleep at night releasing this? And like, I don't know, like, this is something that I've struggled with for literal years, and I don't know how to reconcile it, because it's made it to where I am almost adverse to anything that could possibly, like, make me money or like help me with that. Because like, I am, I've been doing this for a long time, but like, let's be real, right? My YouTube channel is not doing as well as it used to. I am not making a ton of money. I'm just not. And so eventually I have to find a way to support myself, right? And I'm hoping that these endeavors will help with that. But I still also constantly feel like, why should I be doing this? There are other people that are better at it. There are other people that people can listen to. There's other better information. Why should I be sharing it? And so it's made it to where I just don't, right? And I wish I could say, like, I'm going to get over it and I'll be able to do all the things that I want to do, but I don't know if I will. And I don't know, I'm not trying to make the end of this episode or this part of the episode like really sad or anything, but that's just truly what is going through my head. I wish I could tap into that part of the brain that everyone else seems to be able to, and just be like, no, I'm providing so much value. I'm providing so much help for these people. And I'm not even saying that like I don't feel like I'm doing that, but for some reason, the part of my brain that is like, who are you? Why should you do this? Is so much stronger. And I feel like it has been my entire life. Like, it really has been something that has defined me as a person. And I think that a big part of it comes down to me struggling so much in like elementary school. I know that sounds like so pretentious, but struggling so much in school, feeling so stupid, right? Like, I would come home crying, not understanding how everyone else understood multiplication, but for me, I literally couldn't get it. I just did not understand it, right? To then being put in special education and then feeling like, yeah, see, you're right. You are stupid, and you're put in extra special classes because you're not as smart as the other kids. And so this has been something that I feel like has followed me my entire, I guess you could call it, career, where I always second guess myself. I never just am like completely like, no, I can do this. I'm always like, I don't know, we'll see, I guess. And I think to a lot of other people that might be looking on the outside, it might look as negativity, right? Like, I'm being very like negative and self-depreciating, when, I mean, I think that is part of it, but it's not because I'm just trying to be negative. Maybe like, not like, I'm not like trying to be negative to like fish for compliments or like be negative so I can get attention. It's because I genuinely just don't feel like I am smart enough to do anything. Like, the thought of coaching another person one-on-one, me being considered their coach, is terrifying to me. if I'm being completely honest. It is terrifying because who am I? Like, who am I to tell someone what they should do, right? And then that goes into these feelings like I've talked about when I am of like imposter syndrome, of like when people will leave comments saying that I've helped them. And I think that made people want to leave comments on the last podcast, which I really do appreciate. But it's just so hard for me to read them and think I just like, it's almost like I'm reading this nice comment about someone else is the best way that I can put it. Like I see it and like, it's like, wow, that's really nice. But it's like, clearly they're talking about someone else because that's not me. There's no way I was able to help this person lose 100 pounds or this person lose 50 pounds or this person said I'm smart. Like, I don't know what they're thinking. Right. And so it's literally gone into every part of everything that I do, like with the, not just like the coaching and the app, but like even my videos. Like I think a lot of times I won't go as deep or like try to go as like in depth as maybe I want to, because I'm like, who am I to even do that? I'm not the guy that does that. I'm too stupid, you know? And so I don't know. It's just been something that has been a big part of my life for a long time. And I know that it's something I need to work on. I'm going to be starting therapy soon. I've done therapy before, but it was like through like BetterHelp. And I know that was like a huge thing about that. I don't even know what the drama is because I've seen I've seen videos and ads now from BetterHelp again. So I don't know if there was like a, somehow they were able to reconcile everything that happened, but like I'm seeing ads for them again. So it seems like people are using them, but I don't know. Like I feel like doing in person might be better for me. Clearly I got some issues. I know that I'm not at all like, trying to, I think it's pretty obvious. And so, but it's like stuff that I don't want to just always be like, I have issues, you know, I want to work on them and hopefully not have them anymore. Or like, I don't know, be able to not feel like I'm so debilitated by them, because it is frustrating. And I don't want this podcast to be me complaining either. Like I really was not intending that this morning when I recorded this. It just kind of happened. I haven't had the best day. I think lack of sleep is always bad for me. I do not do well with lack of sleep. But yeah, just like there's just a lot of changes in my life going on right now. And so I do feel like, I think part of it is I feel a little out of control. And I do think that that's a big reason why I decided to start this podcast, because it's just me and it's up to me to get it in. It's up to me to do it. It's up to me to record them. And so I think that's why I wanted to start it, because I just wanted something that was just me and I didn't have to deal with anyone else. I didn't have to ask anyone's like permission or anything like that. I just do it and I freaking upload it whenever I want to. It doesn't matter. All right. I don't care about the analytics. I don't care about what's the best way to do it or anything like that. So I don't know. Okay. I'm rambling. I am very much so rambling at this point. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's on my mind. I think I do with this podcast. I definitely do want, this is completely switching gears, but with this podcast, I don't want to just like share my deepest, darkest feelings. I don't want it to be like negative like this. I hope it didn't feel too negative. That was not my intention, but I do want to do like interviews with people. I definitely I have some people in mind. I don't want it to just be weight loss, but again, obviously that's something that I'm going to focus on. And then as far as the name, I do think that O2B podcast is probably what I'll just stick with. I like the idea of like O2B is obviously ObeseToBeast, right? For people that know, but also it can be like O2B, like O2B this or that, right? O2B, I don't know, whatever. And so like, I think it can not just be weight loss, but I think there will be episodes where I'm just kind of rambling as well. And I think that's okay. Because I don't know, maybe this is good for me. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm going to end it. I'm sorry. I hope that this made sense. I genuinely appreciate anyone that watched the whole thing. Like last time, let's see, what emoji? We'll do the cool guys emoji with the sunglasses, you know, the sunglass smiley face emoji. If you made it to the end, leave me that. Spotify has this thing where I can ask a question. And so my question to you, Spotify listeners, and then you can also answer this on YouTube comments. What is there anyone you want me to interview? And if there is someone, leave a comment. That's what we'll do. So that'll be the Q&A question. And then I'll go through those and see if there's anyone that I feel like, that I could consider that would, I think, make a pretty good podcast. And then, as always, if there's any ideas or anything that you think that could make the podcast better, please let me know. I genuinely had a really good time filming the first one and filming this one, even though it was kind of a therapy session. But I hope y'all don't mind too much. But yeah, I appreciate all of you, all of the really nice comments. Truly was like really nice. And yeah, thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time. Peace.